Hello, you are watching Western Reserve News. I'm your host, Bruce Rogers, and we invite you to sit back and watch the highlights of meetings that we are doing this week. This is the week of October 19th, 2015. On Monday, October 19th, 2015, Western Reserve News was at the Lordstown Village Council meeting. On Tuesday, Western Reserve News was at Poland Village Council meeting. On Wednesday, October 21st, Western Reserve News was at the Canfield City Council meeting. And here we go. At the Canfield City Council meeting, City Manager Joe Guarino gives his report. Joe, what's happening in Canfield?
Okay, we have one item of business to attend to this evening, and that being a change order for the Chapel Lane project. It was a small stormwater project that we accomplished this fall, and it results in a deduct of it's a deduct of $6,441 from the base bid contract for work that was not performed, that was not a part of the original contract. A couple of items. The resurfacing is now completed. The Glenview, Blueberry, and Fairview Avenue projects. On the sanitary sewer project on Blueberry, we did run into some problems there. The line, as it was videotaped, was reported to our inspector out there and our consultant, MS Consultants, that it's unrepairable. They can't put a liner through it. It's in that bad of a shape. We've not received the actual videotapes of what they've done up to this point, so we don't know if it could be temporarily, part of it fixed, or if the whole thing has to be replaced. I don't have the full depth of replacement at this time, but there were two pretty large sections. One that was 132 feet that had failed, and they couldn't get the camera through any of that, and 208 feet on the eastern end of the project. So once I get a little more information on that, our course will probably be a full replacement versus attempting to line it, and we'll have to work on closing out that other contract. One of the things, we do need to, again, I keep reminding to come up with a member, a representative of the city for the JED board. We should be working on that and try and get that loosened up or tied up by the end of November. Also, there will be some committee assignments coming up at the end of the year, so anybody that's interested in serving on a committee with the city, if you are interested, get your information into us. There's a new board that will be established on the tax review committee, as well as reassignments of some of the existing board has to stay in place for 2 years. So there's going to be two boards to deal with that one. I think maybe, I don't know if you could explain that, Mark, or not the sense of that.
The reason is the new law impacts taxes for calendar year 2016 forward. So if somebody appealed a decision of the tax administrator from 2014 or 15, it's the old tax code that is relevant, and the old board would hear that appeal, as opposed to 2016 moving forward. So at some point in time, we will, for a couple of years, have two boards.
And I also received just the other day, and there's no reason to act on this evening, but I'll get you a little more detailed information. But we had another water issue in the city, and it could have been something that played part of the role on the Oak Tree development and the low pressure, but there was a leak that's been going on for probably 3 months or better on Oak Tree. They used up in excess of 220,000 gallons from their normal consumption. They told that there's not going to be any relief on the cost of water, but as we've done in the past, if sanitary agrees to deduct that from our billing, again, it would be up to council whether they would deduct the sanitary portion. If you were to do so, it would be about $1,525,000 that would be removed from the bill. But I'll get you the detail and the information. You can look at it, and then we can make a better decision on that the next meeting. But pretty substantial again, and it was a pretty, it's, I guess, a 2-inch water line, as I understand it, was leaking, and it's created some mold and damage to the exterior wall, so it may have been some of the result of why you're having low pressure in that area as well.
It could very well be so.
And I believe that's all I have under, of course, for new business.
At the Poland Village Council meeting, more on the Yellow Creek.
We decided to let the process play out a little bit more, let future testing be done, to still let the public know that there is concern and there are these cautions, but not to be panicked. To that end, I know I talked that night about Kate Keller from WFMJ, who I know I was going to do a story on it, and she talked to Miss Stacy and reached the same conclusion that they didn't want to create a stir or a panic at this time, but they're going to follow through and let the public know whatever we want. I believe, Jordan, did you do the story? Yes, Jordan did a great story in The Vindicator that really laid out both sides. Said that, there was a young man who got really sick, but that there is continued testing that's going to go on, and that the process is going to play out so that we know exactly where this contamination is coming from and what is causing this, so that no one else gets sick in that, that water again. In the meantime, Mr. Donovan brings up a very good point. And what do we do as a village, as an entity? And I think, my own opinion is we do more than nothing. I think, part of it was getting the message out like we did, but I think doing something to let people know or to put signs about staying away from the water for now would probably not be a bad idea. Not saying you've got to stay out that it's dangerous, but that there are concerns. I don't know what the Mill Creek folks did, but something along those lines that notices the public but doesn't scare the public. And that's kind of where I've read where everyone stands right now. Ms. Sweeney's here too from the Board of Health. So we have everyone we need right here to talk about this.
Steph, you want to introduce Ryan to everyone, what he does?
Sure. I'd just like to say that I tried to get the Ohio EPA to come in today too to share their expertise and facts from the sampling that they had done at the same time with Ryan, and they couldn't come in without a formal invitation from the council through Columbus, so Greg Orr couldn't be here. But Ryan Tekak and Patricia Sweeney from Mahoney County Board of Health, I felt that inviting them, as well as if I could have had the Ohio EPA here, would have been a little bit more easier to take the information that Ms. Stacy had presented, and then also to hear the scientific data behind what had happened on the sampling days and why they were just so different. So my encouragement was, after that meeting, was to use precaution as far as keeping people totally out of the creek. My only concern with that is if you do that with Yellow Creek, you might as well come out and just say every surface water is contaminated. Every surface water is not safe, including the ocean.
As far as what the septic systems go that are in the area, when this complaint came in, that's the first thing we looked at. There is an area that there's about, I'd say, 16 or 17 houses that are still on septics. We don't have any complaints currently that are on those systems, so it's something we did look into. As far as sampling goes, we can offer that. However, it does come with a fee. So what Mill Creek Park is doing right now, that's something that we offer to them and that they paid for. So we would be more than happy to offer that for you guys and sit down and discuss a strategy moving forward as far as where to sample, how often to sample, and then what it would cost.
Can the board recommend an action at this time that we may take, or would they recommend no action, or would they not? Would they stay out of recommending things? What would be the? Because I defer to experts in these situations. So what would you recommend that we do, if anything?
I would say, moving forward right now, we only have 3 samples. 1 sample was taken out in December, and that's out of the recreational season. The OAC, the law basically states recreational waters of when to sample during the recreational season. 2 of those samples were taken, and they're supposed to be taken at base flow. And when they say base flow, that's when you have, I believe it's 72 hours of a non-rain event. And the reason why the EPA does that is because they want to ensure that they're not getting any, they call it non-point pollution. Non-point pollution is runoff from farm fields and whatnot. Point pollution is something that you can put your eye on. It's a point, it's a source, and that can be your septic systems or whatnot. So at this point, I wouldn't recommend to post signage in until you have more science behind it, coming from a science background.
Can I say something also? Okay. I've talked to Pat and to Ryan about this, and I've also talked to Dr. Johnston, who's the head of the biology department at YSU. He did email me some things today, but I couldn't print them because I wanted information like I got from the EPA. He said that he sends students out twice a year to the different areas, always to Yellow Creek, and it's always a different reading. And he said it's very high, and many times the students are quite concerned with the count. So that's what I wanted to get from him, was an actual printout. And he sent me like a scale that showed the chloroform and showed the other. And I wanted more of a chart that I got from the EPA when we had it tested in December. So he said it's always different when he sends the students out here. And he said, and to tell the people, these students aren't just out of high school. They have PhDs in what they're doing. So they're very, very cautious. They're very particular in what they do. And he said, but we've always had different readings in Yellow Creek, and they've never been good.
Front and center at the Lordstown Council meeting were representatives of the Trumbull Transit Program who explained what their program does for all Trumbull County residents.
Good evening, the mayor and council and members. My name is Bob Faulkner, and I currently chair the transit system in Trumbull County. And we appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you this evening concerning transportation in Trumbull County, and I want to just talk a little bit about the services that's provided, and actually solicit your support in the kinds of things that we have going on in Trumbull County. I have with me my vice chair, Mr. Marvin Palich, who is a realtor, and I also brought along our contractor, Mr. Terry Thomas from Community Bus, and you probably see those buses running all over the community, as well as the transit buses. And one of the reasons that we're here today, we also passed out a brochure that we put together that talks about all of the services that's provided in Trumbull County for senior citizens. And a big part of this has to do with transportation. There is, as all of you know, there is a major focus in the country as it talks about transportation. Getting, of course, more vehicles off of the road, providing safe rides for seniors as well as students. And we understand there's a possibility, I know there's some discussion now with your group about transportation. We just wanted to talk to you about an interest that you could be a part of our system. This does a few things that I think is critical for all of us. The more communities that we can provide the transportation to, we are part, of course, the Federal Transit Administration, so the more people and the more services that you provide, the more funds that we can receive, and therefore provide more transportation to additional people.
I saw your resolution tonight for TCAP, and we're not competing in any way with that type of a service. What you have here, this is a report to the community from the commissioners to tell you that through your county tax dollars and through the tax dollars that you pay for the senior levy, you already have a countywide system. So you, 365 days a year, whether you're a senior citizen, whether you're disabled, or whether you're John Q. Public, you can pick up the phone and call the transit system, and how you do that is on the inside of the front cover, and it's overseen by the transit board, and there's a good description of them on the inside of the back cover. That's there now for anybody, and we're one of the few systems that run 365 days a year. That's for anybody. It's a public system. The Lordstown schools belong to this system through the co-op. So there are students who ride this system, whether the TCTC or other students of the schools. And then Mr. Armstrong wanted me to pass on that they're very, very supportive of having the transit system as it relates to the supplement for school kids who are better served on this system. But also, I want to make sure you're aware, the second to the last page with the 3 graphics for Ohio, it's talking about how Ohio is aging, and it goes back to the year 2000, then 2010, then 2020. Those are the counties in red that are over, they have a certain percentage of the population over 65. The reason this senior levy, which is up for renewal, by the way, on November 3rd, is so important is that the other services that are provided besides transportation are included and very well described in this document. But the transportation component is critical, so I wanted to make sure that you know we're not competing with TCAP for that level of service. That's number one. But you have available to you, even if you're not a participating community, this countywide service 365 days a year. And as Bob mentioned, if you join as a participating community, which is a cost to you of 50 cents per year per citizen in the village, and in your jurisdiction, and then you would get a reduced fare from $2, because we have to give $2 senior citizen countywide rides. Yours would go to $1.50, and that's anywhere in the county, and it includes dialysis centers in Hermitage and in Boardman and the Veterans Center in Youngstown as well. So it's a very profound system. It works well. We run like 99% on time, and I just wanted you to make sure that you're aware of the services, and of course we want you to vote for the senior levy when it comes back up. Senior levy was first passed in 2005 and again in 10, and that's up again.
Now, if the village, okay, and this is just another question because I have had response from residents over this issue. This is going to become a pretty big issue. If the village does nothing, our residents still can use your program. It's there right now.
It's there now.
I just wanted to clarify that.
And that's through the senior levy.
Yes.
And then,
Now, you're saying $2 a trip if we did nothing, or $1.50
for senior citizens.
if we joined, for senior citizens. Now, say like if you came and brought somebody to our nutrition site and then took them back, that would be either $3 or $4, or would that be
for senior
considered?
citizens, it would be $2 each way. It would be $1.50 if you joined. If they weren't senior citizens, then it goes up to the $4, and then we have the $8. Say it was a person who didn't have a disability, wasn't a senior citizen, it's $8 each way.
Because, I don't know, how the ordinance came about for the TCAP, other than they're looking at, possibly trying to figure out whether we want to stay in the bus business or...
Councilman John Mansell explains his point of view as to why Lordstown should maintain transportation on their own.
I think this service would be fantastic. The residents already have access to it. TCAP, the residents have access to it. If the village wants to work out an agreement to where we're going to help fund the residents or reimburse them, I really have no problem, but I still am supporting a new bus. Their hours doesn't cover everything we have served our residents with, and I feel senior citizens are as important to me as children. They're both the most important things we've got. We have a recreation program that just beats anything in Trumbull County for our children. And I do not understand the mentality. When this village is financially okay, I'm not going to sit like a bunch of candidates and sit there and say we've got a lot of money, because we don't have a lot of money, but we are financially okay. Why do we want to cut services to any of our residents? Okay? 6 o'clock does not cover the concerts that our residents threw a fit over not being able to go to, and I think that's a good service. There's other ways that we can resolve the problem about where the bus driver has to sit. I've had conversation with people on that. Nothing says he needs to sit down there behind Packard Park in the dark. He could go to Mocha House or somewhere like that, have a coffee. I'll buy him a breakfast or a lunch or whatever it is, if that's what it is. We have an expense account in the village for our employees. These are foolishness. And I don't know why this council wants to sit here and cut services to our senior citizens. I will support this program. It's already there. Our residents can use it, but I still will support a new bus when it comes time. I think we need to investigate that because this doesn't cover everything. It's a fantastic program, but I don't understand the mentality that started cutting services to our residents.
Lordstown gives a 1981 Pierce fire truck to Mission of Love Foundation.
I'm Kathleen Price, and I'm the director and founder of the Mission of Love Foundation, which I started 30 years ago. We're very grassroots, very simple, and we're not here to save the world, but we are here to touch the hands that are within our reach. Tonight, we have a very, very special evening. That is, we're supplying, because of the mayor, council, you, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, their very first fire truck. Very first fire truck in America to service 44,000 Native Americans. It's a third world here, and because of you, they're going to be able to save their grasslands. They're going to be able to save their homes because they'll have a fire truck. And Ronnie, I got the request from the volunteer firemen, which they don't have a truck, but they're trying to pull things together. And Ron called and he said, are you interested in a fire truck? We advertised it, and nobody showed any interest. And do you want to come and see it? Before I knew it, I was sitting in the mayor's office and giving him my call of compassion for my friends on the Native American reservation in South Dakota. And we all thought, hey, this might be a good idea. Instead of selling it for salvage, we could literally service a whole community from Lordstown, Ohio, to Kyle, South Dakota. That's pretty impressive, isn't it? Because of a phone call, because of the mayor, because of council, taking the time to care about their fellow citizens, their fellow Native Americans, our first Americans.